Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We are going to feature a young lady in an interview that this is not only directed to millennials, but this shows that this covers more than just millennials. These issues of healthcare, these issues of insurance, many of these issues cover us all. And it is imperative, folks, it is imperative that what we do going forward, listen to what we're going to talk about today. Listen to this young woman. But before I get started, I want to bring up a few issues. First of all, we should never allow Republicans, period, to come and take the high ground on the issues that we are currently having with the anti-Semitism kind of drama that the Republicans are trying to institute within the Democratic Party. We should not allow that. So before I get into that issue, I just want to crack on that real shortly. And that is, folks, do not allow ourselves to be usurped. Do not allow these guys to do what they're intending to do, and that is to flip the switch on this issue. We cannot allow that to happen. And guess what? I already see it happening. Look, we cannot allow that. It is important that we don't. Anyhow, we have a person that I interviewed. I'm going to play the interview in a second. That is quite and most important. She hadn't had health care in a long time, and she got it. And, well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and cue the program. The title of the program today is This Millennials Ordeal, Show Why We Need Medicare for All. Subtitle, Stephanie Thompson is a millennial who went without insurance for 2 years. She got a job that offers health insurance just in time. A rationale for Medicare for all. Anyhow, I interviewed Stephanie Thompson about her healthcare ordeal. She is unlike millions of millennials throughout the country. She's just like how, millions of millennials are in her situation. She works hard but lacks something we used to have, job security, and that included healthcare. In this winner-take-all economy, people are just widgets to be used by the wealthy few and the wards of the plutocracy to enrich themselves. Please listen to the entire interview, please. And then take this story to others. And if you're a millennial that just think, I'm young and nothing's going to happen to me or whatever, please also take heed. Please listen completely. The young and the old should listen to what this woman has to say. So without any further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you that interview. I'm going to get out of the way. And let's take it on. And please, again, please listen to it. And please go ahead and share it. So here we go. Today I have the honor of speaking with Stephanie Thompson. Stephanie Thompson is a contract technical writer and the president of Young Dems BCS. And you know what? Stephanie wrote a blog post. And Daniel Cohen, who is the president of Indivisible Houston, sent me a note and he said, Egberto, you have got to see this, and better, you've got to have this woman on your show. To which I said, I don't think you had to tell me that. So without any further ado, Stephanie Thompson, welcome aboard Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me on, Egberto.
Well, look, I am ecstatic to have you because I tell you what, I am a person who believes in stories. And I think in order to change our system, in order to change our healthcare system, we have to have people's stories and real stories. Because what happens is at any time in life, right, or at any time there are only a small amount of folks who are ill or in the need of health care. So it's sort of something that's not on your minds. But when you are the person sitting back there without health care and living that life knowing that what if. So what I'd like to ask you to do first of all is tell me about that blog post that you wrote, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So at first, I wasn't sure about whether I wanted to talk about this publicly on such a public forum as Facebook, because we do consider our healthcare journeys to be very personal. And then I realized, much like you just said, that personal stories are compelling. And so I decided to be open about what I've been dealing with. And certainly there are people who are dealing with far worse situations. And I can only speak to, my own experience, but it really opened my eyes to the reality that a lot of Americans are dealing with. So for the past 2 years, I have worked as a contract worker, and this is the first time in my adult life that I've ever been, employed as a contract worker. And I realized that, contract work is becoming more and more popular by employers because it removes their liability to their employees, and it removes the responsibility from them to provide me with benefits, which we consider standard for a normal employee. So for the past 2 years, I've been living without health insurance because my employer didn't have to provide it to me. And so now I'm speaking very publicly about it because, we are employing more and more contract workers by the day because it's obviously good for business to, employ people that you're not obligated to in any way. This means I can't claim all kinds of things, not just health insurance. And so I was living that way. And basically my health insurance plan was to eat my vegetables, cross my fingers, and hope for the best, And if I was concerned about something, if I was sick at all, I would just wait for it to pass and not get it looked at because I wasn't sure how much it would end up costing if I did get it looked at. And I'm lucky that I'm young and that I'm, for the most part, in very good health, and I just shudder to think about going through that uninsured period if those things weren't true. If I had a pre-existing condition, if I had, a special needs child, or if I just had one procedure, because, one simple procedure can cost thousands of dollars. Even a routine examination can cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And, given the fact that 75% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, which means they don't even have $500 put aside in savings. So given that fact, uninsured people in that group, one procedure can ruin their life. One procedure can totally just destroy their world. One routine checkup, and they're probably living like me and just avoiding the doctor, which means that their health insurance plan is waiting until something is so serious that they just have to get rushed to the ER. And, and that's not a plan, because that's often when it's too late to do something about it. And so this experience for me has been very eye-opening because, I'm lucky enough that I didn't have to worry too much most of the time. But the reason I was a little bit hard to get a hold of today, and I apologize about that, is because I went in for a mammogram, and I have to go in for a biopsy on Monday.
Oh, wow.
And, I had to wait until I got health insurance to schedule an appointment because I didn't know how much it would cost. And I felt like I detected something back in December, late December, and I decided to roll the dice and wait until my insurance card arrived to get it looked at. And I don't intend to be dramatic. It's likely not cancer, but I have to wait until Monday to be sure. And, the lady, the nurse who helped me said, try to have a good weekend, because she knew I'd be worrying about it, and she felt sorry that I'd have to wait. But what she doesn't know is that I've been waiting for months. So what's another weekend,
Stephanie, first of all, I'm sorry for the pain that you're going to have to go through this weekend, because we can tell you anything, but while you're waiting, but this is real, and this is completely unbeknownst to me, and I feel a bit that I'm putting you through this without having known this before.
No,
you
I
are a
just
brave
found out
person for keeping up with this interview on this. Do you want to continue, or I am?
Yes, I do, because this is the real stuff. This is exactly why people should not be waiting for coverage. I think it's actually supposed to happen this way because, I was very lucky, or so I thought, that I survived 2 years without any major problems, but the reality is that a lot of people don't survive that uninsured period. And I think people need to hear about situations like mine and other people's stories, because these are the repercussions of not having health insurance and wondering about, something to do with your health, something that is bothering you, and you are just kind of waiting until it gets so bad that you can't ignore it. And, for a while, I just told myself maybe I'm just imagining things, but I promised myself that as soon as I got coverage, I would schedule an appointment and, get it checked out. And, I just received my health insurance card, and on Monday I went in, and then today, I had some more appointments, and I have to wait for further confirmation. I got blood work done, and again, they seem pretty confident that it's nothing, or it's something, but it's likely not cancer. But
You still
we have Americans dying because they didn't crowdfund enough for life-saving surgery. And we are a wealthy country. We shouldn't have anyone dying because they didn't crowdfund enough for surgery that they needed to survive. And when you live in a wealthy country where things like that occur, your system is broken.
Wow.
And you know, now I'm experiencing firsthand the consequences of not being covered, and I'm lucky that it's only grazing me, you know. This is hopefully nothing, and I don't have to be too worried, but there are a lot of people who don't get such hopeful news. And you know, the procedure I had today alone would cost $800 if I wasn't covered. And even with coverage, actually, you know, I got a mammogram today. And so with health insurance, if it's a routine screening, it's covered by my health insurance. But if it's a diagnostic mammogram, I pay out of pocket $800. And that's before I even get my biopsy. You know, that's before whatever other expenses I may occur. You know, I'm already resigned to the fact that I'm probably going to be dropping some money on this because this is probably going to end in surgery. And who knows how much that would cost without health insurance. Who knows how much it's going to cost me even though I have health insurance, you know. And so today alone could bankrupt, you know, a family that's just barely getting by or not even surviving, you know, who work for minimum wage, you know, who have more than one kid. You know, when I was living in New York City, I worked at a network of homeless shelters, and, you know, a common misconception is that homeless people are homeless because they don't have jobs. But working at homeless shelters, I met people who had not one full-time job, but 2 full-time jobs. You know, so I think of someone like that who is working 80 hours a week and is still living in a homeless shelter. You know, they leave their 8-hour shift at Dunkin' Donuts and go straight to their 8-hour shift at McDonald's. And, you know, and they have kids and they can't afford daycare because we don't have universal pre-K, you know, and these people are not lazy. They work harder than anyone.
Yeah.
They never see their kids because they're working 80 hours a week, you know, and yet they still have to live in a homeless shelter because New York City is that expensive, you know. And this affordable housing isn't just a New York City problem. This is an everywhere problem. And, you know, so I think of people like that. And then I think of the next tier, which is poor, but not poor enough for Medicare or Medicaid. And that's a whole other problem in terms of people who are covered, you know, because you can live a very economically disadvantaged lifestyle and, you know, not be really surviving, definitely not thriving, and yet you still don't qualify for Medicaid because the threshold is so low, because they deliberately make it so low so that no one qualifies or very few people qualify. That's all deliberate, you know. So the threshold, I was looking at it for 2018, the threshold for an individual was 16,700 something. Mm-hmm. And if you make, you know, 16,800, you're too rich for Medicaid.
Right.
You know, 16,800 a year. You're too rich for Medicaid.
Amazing.
And for a family of 3, the threshold is 28,000.
Not even 3 times.
Yeah.
That is shameful. Yes.
So 28,000. If you make 29,000, even with a family of 3, to support on 28,000, then you make too much money for Medicaid.
Wow.
And granted, I'm not a healthcare professional, so some people might, dispute my my breakdown or whatever.
The thing about it is the trajectory, and it is simply bad. So I gather then that you are as well supportive of Medicare for all as the
yes.
way Pramila Jayapal wrote the bill.
Yes, I'm very supportive of Medicare for all. That's, to me, one of my primary issues because of the experience I've gone through, and because I know that it will impact so many people if implemented. This is an economic issue. This is a race issue. This is an everybody issue. Because if we want to talk about something that can really change people's lives in a good way or a bad way, it's whether they have healthcare coverage. And, not even talking about like whether it can save their life in terms of the actual procedure, but how it can financially ruin them
right.
or save them to either have healthcare coverage or not. And, and that's why it's an economic issue. And that's why, in the interest of, caring for people who are just, struggling, like this to me is one of the primary issues, in addition to ensuring a living wage. This absolutely needs to happen. Countries with far smaller economies can afford to take care of their citizens. Why can't we?
We should be able, Stephanie. Now, Stephanie, let's talk about you. I mean, you're an amazing person. Here you are with your tribulations, and you're talking about everybody else. Let's talk about you here. When I saw your post, you said you cried. When you cried tears, mostly tears of joy, when you had that card in your hand, and it's so great that you had that card now. But during your life, I mean, you're an activist as well. You're out there. How scared are you when you're driving and hoping nothing happens? How scared are you when you go on a little vacation or on the beach and hope you don't step on a spear? Tell us a little bit about that your mental state, knowing behind you that no matter what you do, you just have to be that much more careful.
Yeah. Well, I used to bike to work, actually, and that was constantly going through my head. What if someone hits me? Because, I could be rushed to the ER, but what if there are, subsequent problems? I would constantly worry about that. And I would bike to work anyway, but it was always on my mind. And I had to be very careful. I, would practice a lot of kind of preventative medicine in a way, which is just like eating healthy and, working out, because that was pretty much the only thing I had in my arsenal was, just those basic ways of taking care of yourself, but other than that, I would try not to let it govern my life. But it was always there in the background. And I guess I never really realized that I had been carrying this weight around with me. It was always there with me, this dread of, what if something were to happen? What if I get sick? What if I need surgery? I haven't been to a doctor in over 2 years now, and who knows what's wrong with me, that I just can't detect yet. And, I try not to live in fear. I try not to, let it control me. But when I received that card, I was silent for a moment. And my boyfriend wondered if why I was silent and what was going on. And then I just started sobbing. And that's when I realized that I'd been carrying that weight around. And I hadn't known it until that moment that I was waiting for coverage, and that part of me would never fully be able to rest until I got covered again. And this is the first time in my adult life that I have gone without coverage, because I always had it through a job. Usually if you have some sort of office job, then you probably have decent benefits. And I had a lot of office jobs. I was working in PR departments, communications, and I just didn't ever have to worry about it. And that's why this period has been instructive for me, because I think a lot of Americans aren't really concerned with it because they've never had to worry about it personally. If they've never been self-employed, my parents are both small business owners, self-employed. So, I grew up on Medicaid, and I also saw that my dad often avoided going to the doctor. I thought he was just being stubborn, but it's also probably a financial decision, because he knew he just couldn't afford it. If they wanted to perform some sort of procedure, it's just kind of like choosing to live in willful ignorance. Because if I don't go to the doctor, they can't tell me there's something wrong with me. And, there's no problem if I don't know about it, right?
Right.
And, obviously that's how serious problems become even more serious, because they're left unaddressed. And, I'm lucky that so far my prognosis seems good. But I was waiting, and while I was waiting, my problem was becoming bigger, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And, so no one should have to wait it out like that. No one should have to roll the dice with their own health and well-being. And, I did think about going to the doctor anyway, no matter how much it cost me. And even if it wipes out my savings, then so be it, and maybe if I would have had to wait even longer, I would eventually have done that. But because I knew it was coming pretty soon, I just decided to wait. But, I'm lucky that as the problem got worse, it wasn't something even more serious.
Right, and that is on the Affordable Care Act product that you have, the insurance plan that you have?
So I'm not covered through the ACA, and that's a whole other thing, because I could have opted into that, but when I looked at paying for my own coverage, it would have cost me hundreds per month. And, we have pulled ourselves out of housing insecurity. And at the time, I just decided that I needed that money to, improve my situation.
Absolutely. No, but the coverage that you have now is through your employer.
It's through my employer, yeah. And, I'm lucky that now it's a very good plan, and, that's great. But there are still lots of people who aren't so lucky. And that's why I have to consider the situation of others, because I'm lucky that my luck has recently improved. Yeah, but we have thousands of Americans without coverage, and the ACA was kind of a compromise, because if I'm being totally honest, I consider it mandated health insurance, which is not the same as universal health care coverage. And that's why I opted out, because it would still cost me hundreds per month. And I also had the option of opting into Cobra, which is
ridiculously
basically nothing.
Right.
So, and again, it was a financially motivated decision. And I decided that I'd rather keep that money. And, I'm young, I'm healthy, it's fine, and, so I kept just rolling the dice like that. And I know a lot of other young people have done the same. And that's kind of what they counted on when they removed the individual mandate.
Right.
They counted on people like me opting out. And for me, it was, I had to at the time. And it killed me because I knew that this is exactly what they wanted, but I also do believe that the ACA wasn't enough for that reason. And that's why we can't let people who accept money from healthcare, health insurance industry donors to create something and call it Medicare for all, when in fact it's not. And that's something that I'm going to be paying attention to as the never-ending 2020 primary season continues, is that I'm going to be paying attention to whether the candidates, when they say Medicare for all, do they actually mean Medicare for all, or do they just want to use it for political points? And then when you look at it, it's actually just Medicare for some, because some of them, it might end up that they just expand the age groups that are covered, which doesn't solve the problem, and that's not universal health care.
Right.
So, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to what they actually mean when they say Medicare for all or universal health care.
Well, Stephanie, I wanted to hear your story. Your story is amazing. Thank you for keeping this up in as much as you had that information today. So what I want to ask, is give me a 2-line closer so that every millennial, every Gen Xer, every Gen Z can listen to and know.
I want them to know that healthcare is a human right. And in a wealthy country such as ours, I believe that you can't consider yourself a patriot if you're okay with fellow Americans dying when they don't need to. And the only thing that is standing in our way is greed. There are no other reasons to not have universal health care. The only thing standing in our way is greed.
Stephanie Thompson, thank you so kindly for this interview. Thank you so kindly for telling this story. I guarantee you this story means a lot to America all over. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you, Alberto.
All right, folks, that was Stephanie Thompson. That was a story, compelling story, and most importantly, I didn't even know what she was going through the week of the interview that we did it. I kind of felt a little bit concerned that, oh my God, I have this woman after hearing this news right here on the show, but she was kind enough to stay on, and I really was wanting to reschedule or talk another time if necessary, but she wanted to go on. She wanted to do it. So where do we go from here? Anyway, what else are we going to talk about today? We have a lot to talk about, really, right? The first thing I want to tell folks is when you see stories like this, when you see stories of real people, the tribulations that they're going through, whether it be healthcare, whether it be work, whether it is their homes or whatever, we want to hear about it. Because what happens now is the big term, oh, those darn folks are now socialists. Those Democrats are socialists or whatever they want to say. The truth of the matter is most Americans are going through a hell of a lot of tribulations right now. The thing about Americans is Americans suffer in silence. Your neighbor, there's a whole lot of times the person living right next to you is having it hard. There's a whole lot of times a lot of people that you think they're doing just fine, you're seeing them every day. They're not doing fine, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong. It is a system that continues to extract. It's a system that continues to eat them. And then we have those that are the wards of this, the wards of the plutocracy, those that support the crap that we all out there. Those that are what I call the legally selfish out there, that don't realize that what they're doing many times is embracing a system that is hurting their fellow man, their fellow woman, their families, their relatives, everybody else. It's a system. When you read the statistics that 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck and don't have $500 if they had to come up with if something happened. When you see that kind of a reality that's facing America, there is in fact a problem. My question to you is, what are we going to do about that problem? You know, when as Republicans try to demean Democrats and call them socialists, as they try to demean them and say, oh, they want to give away everything or whatever, you ask them, what do you have to offer Americans? We know, I tell you what, I know what I'm telling Americans. We are willing as a party, as a progressive, what we want to present to America to make America better. We know the solutions. The question is, will Americans have the gall to vote the solutions? You know, I have a video that sprung up. I don't remember where I got it from. It's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas. And I'm going to, you know, I just indexed it. I just went ahead and bookmarked it because I'm going to do a supplementary show today. After this show, I'm going to cut up that video and do a supplementary show, and it's mostly to speak heart to heart with people based on what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said. I interviewed her 2 years ago at Netroots when she just started, or a year and a half ago, I guess, at Netroots when she just started her campaign. And I looked her in the eye and I told her that she was going to be the next candidate from the next congresswoman from her district. I knew that because there are certain people that you can see with the it factor, and she had that it factor. Before I go, and 314, I'm coming to take your call right now. Let me do a quick plug for my book, and then I am going, or subscription to Politics Done Right. Then we'll take that phone call. Folks, the telephone number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Look, folks, please go ahead and support Politics Done Right by becoming a subscriber. You become a subscriber, go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. It's not Patreon, P-A-T-R-O-N, but it's patreon.com/politicsdoneright. For that subscription, we give you some teasers. You have access to, you can get a subscription that gives you access to all of our books. How to Make America Utopia is the current book that I'm writing. Every chapter that I write goes on live immediately to the website. I'm on chapter 3 right now. It's taking me a bit longer because, you know, I'm doing a whole lot of other stuff. But one of the reasons it's taken me a bit longer too is that in between that, I completed a book that I'd started a while back on weight loss. You know, I lost about 50 pounds or so. And I figured, you know what, this is something that could be helpful to a whole lot of people. So I don't know if I can bring that book up. Let me see if I can I can add that book. But what I'm going to do is while I take that phone call, I am going to try to pull that up. But please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Caller from 314, you're hot. Caller from 314, you are hot.
Yeah, I was looking at your topic on Medicare for all and the Bernie Sanders plan.
Hey, it's actually now...
I'm not for that.
It's actually now not Bernie Sanders' plan anymore. It belongs now to Pramila Jayapal. She's the one who authored it. But go ahead, my friend.
Well, yeah, well, we talking about politicians who will be pushing it.
Yeah.
But you know, here's the thing with me on these plans, and I thought Obamacare was just terrible. If you're going to I'm against forcing people to get involved in any commercial plan.
I'm too. I agree with you there.
And I'm against, of course, if I'm against getting people involved, I'm against the devious ways that Obamacare did by fining people and charging them fees. And I think that was totally wrong.
You want me to tell you a secret?
Because
you want me to tell you a secret? Guess what? So far we're in agreement. Yeah. So far we're in agreement. So keep on hitting the right tones, my brother.
Yeah, I thought that was totally wrong, especially for young people who getting started, trying to save money for homes and pay their education. I think that was wrong to do them like that.
Well, I don't think that. I think
so.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I thought that was totally wrong to that people didn't have insurance. The IRS would not take their tax return, or they would be fined or penalized, like we said before. Now, if they come up with a plan that don't cost American public any additional money than what they're playing now by juggling things around, then I don't have no problem with it.
You would support it?
But
I am so
if it doesn't cost me any money, you understand? And I don't know how they're going to charge people these premiums. I heard reading some instances where it's going to be up to $6,000 a year. That's a lot of money.
All right,
that's $500 a month.
Let me explain a few things
okay.
to you. Let me explain a few things to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The total, people like to make believe that the healthcare economy is one open loop. It's not. It's a closed loop. There's a fixed amount of dollars in any one economy in any given time. In other words, in any given time, bam, the economy is fixed, period. That's not an arguable point. It is fixed. All right? So, and that is just science, or rather math. But anyhow, so what I'm saying is this. It's about how the money is distributed. Right now, we collect a whole lot of premiums from those who can afford it. For those who can't afford it, we have things like Medicaid. For those who don't qualify for Medicaid, we have things like the emergency room. But there's only one group that is preeminent in our entire system, and that is the medical industrial complex. What do I mean by that? The only people that are guaranteed to get paid are the shareholders of all these private companies and the executives for those that are not private, for those that are not for profits. In other words, the non-profits. Okay. What we're saying is we rearrange all this stuff completely. First of all, we have a system where there are no shareholders involved. Why don't we want shareholders? Because dividends at that point becomes an expense. So once you remove that from the equation, that's monies that don't have to be paid. When we talk about when you have several different insurance companies, what you get is having to have duplication in database management, duplication in advertising, duplication in executives, duplications in all these other features. Given that now you only have one, all those costs are gone. Let's continue. When it comes to the drug companies, right now most of the drugs on the markets are done through socialism. People don't like when I say that, but the truth of the matter is most drugs on the market today, their genesis came from the taxpayer dollars, either through the NIH or some grant given to a university or some organization. That is where the seed money came from. Now, when it's time to capitalize on these drugs, private companies are formed, or private companies take it over or buy the patents. And when they buy the patents, they are in sole control of that particular drug. Even though the taxpayer was the investor, the person who seeded the money to develop these drugs, when it came to putting that drug on the market, all the spoils went to the few owners of the corporation. I'm not done yet. The few owners of the corporation.
Okay, could you stop on those?
Okay, go.
Because I'm having a hard time keeping up with you.
Okay, go ahead.
On this last point.
Yes.
I think that drug companies should donate heavily to universities that was involved in the research. Public universities, you're giving the money right back to the public. I'm totally against doing away with dividends because retired people utilize dividends as income. And now if you take that from them, now you're hurting them on that scale. Then another thing.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Well, if you take away the dividends, people won't be able to collect what they supplement their income.
Actually, that's
after
not true.
Retirement
not
in
true.
particular.
Not true at all. Let me correct that now, right? We have an economy that
I shouldn't say it's not true. I'm sorry, sir. You're actually correct.
No, it is.
No, you're
yeah,
correct.
it is true.
No,
I get dividends on my stock.
Sir, that's what I'm saying. I get dividends as well on the few that I have. Okay, when I said wrong, I didn't mean wrong. That was my error. I'm sorry. You are correct on that issue. What I'm saying is it is the wrong method that we are using as far as retirements are concerned, okay, because it's a speculative method. I am saying there are certain things that shouldn't be speculative, that you're going to have a healthy retirement or not should not be speculative. It should be an economy designed with that in mind. If you're designing your economy on a stock market based on it, stock market is generally up most of the times, but if you're unlucky that during the time that you're retiring, the stock markets are dead and both you lose both the bond markets and the stock markets at the same time, which has happened before, then you're hosed. That is not a way to run a humane economy. Remember, an economy is man-made. And I didn't say human-made meaning man and woman. I meant an economy is man-made. Those old men who created an economy to serve them. Okay? Now, here is the deal. Here's the deal. When it comes to dividends from these drug companies, etc., I don't mind if they get a few dividends for what they've done, but here's what I want. I want the percentage of the dividend commensurate with what we as taxpayer invested return on every piece of drug sale. I don't want it to be, oh, we kind of give a little donation to the schools and we give a little donation here. I want a compelling. Donations is voluntary. I want a compelling. And the reason I want a compelling is absent what we did, they would not have. It's that simple.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I'm against that because, a lot goes into the perfecting of drugs.
Yes, you're right. You're
including the research.
You're
but
right.
if you have a speculation of a stock, a initial purchase offer, and if that drug is going through trials and the Federal Drug Administration comes back with some bad news, then the people who have invested in that drug is losing money.
And that is a story, right? That is a story that...
And that happens more time than not.
No, that's a story that they tell. Here's the thing that I try to ask people all of the times. The drug companies did not become the second most profitable company share in history, except for the financial sector, which actually does absolutely nothing for the money they earn. The drug companies didn't become that second tier of always making a hell of a lot of money because sometimes they fail. The profit margins in the drugs, I mean the real profit margin and the hidden profit margin, because remember there's a lot of things they expense out that really aren't expenses. So we have to be very careful in the type of accounting that these people do. What I want, I forgot your name again,
my name is Bianchi, but
Bianchi.
Just what you said.
Yes.
If what they're doing is legal.
Yes.
And if they're not breaking any rules or laws, I don't have any problem with it.
And you know what? You're right. It is legal what they're doing, and that's why you have people like myself with a program like this trying to inform Americans on how things work, because many times they don't understand how things work because it's not really made for them to understand or to know. So you have programs like mine who come along and say, you know what, we are going to make sure Americans understand and then democratically decide if they want that type of pill for to continue. Hold 1 second, Bianchi, because I want to do one thing, because now that I said that, and if you want to learn about these things in detail, from patent laws to how the drug companies pilfer us and all these things, folks, for a subscription as well, you can get our book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Once you subscribe to Politics Done Right, guess what? You can read that book online, and I promise you, that book is informative, and it is not just a rant about how things are working. It is a book that has solution. It's a book that is very well indexed. It's a book that tells you where to validate the statements that I'm making, that you can see, oh, really, that's out there. So if go ahead, please, and subscribe to Politics Done Right at patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politics done right. And guess what? There's a third book that's in there that you get, all for that subscription. I just added that book. I just completed that book and published that book This weekend, it is called Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. Say no to snake oil weight loss. As you guys know, I lost 50 pounds. I had a health scare, and I had to do that. And over the last several years, I took off 50 pounds. I work out a whole lot. I got my blood pressure under control from 240 over 140. Yes, those numbers are real. That's what happened to me.
In the world, you have a 240.
Let me tell you,
my goodness,
Bianchi. Let me tell you, I was almost at a stroke. The paramedics, when they came out, they couldn't believe that I didn't have a stroke, Bianchi. They didn't believe it, sir. They didn't. But anyhow, so I give my whole story in that Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. Say no to snake oil weight.
Well, I agree with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I agree with you on that. To have a 240, that's really ridiculous. Your veins must be in pretty good shape. You got a lot to be thankful for.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I tell you something. I believe in, and we'll get back on your topic in a session. I just want to give a little thing here. I honestly believe in giving back. I had a very good, successful business, and I gave it all up to say I'm going to be a political activist because I think this economy is all wrong and it doesn't support. That is the reason I do this. And then when it comes to when people say, oh, you're lucky, I don't think it is that I'm lucky. I honestly think that, when they say ultimately good things happen when you do right, I honestly believe that.
Well, that works for some people and don't work for everybody, because I know my family, we fed people, bought them clothes, all sorts of things, and we seem like we always attract negative energy.
Well, let me tell you something. You notice you come on my show, and in as much as I disagree with you on quite a bit of stuff, my brother, I listen to what you say, and I think you're a good person. I think your family, based on what you say, are good people. I disagree in what you think an economy should be, but, I still like you. Wow, because that is what we have to find
in
conversations.
Well, I disagree with what you do, and I like you, too. I'm happy that you're survived.
Yeah.
Anyway, now, getting back to you,
yes,
what
sir.
You were saying.
Go ahead.
I think I don't have a problem with dividends, because if we had stock in Anheuser-Busch or Boeing, well, they're going to pay dividends. Now I do have problems with stock in banks, because somebody's got to lose for them to make money in some cases of the time.
Bianchi, I don't know. Bianchi, you should have never said that. That's a dangerous statement that you just said. Do you know how dangerous that statement is?
Well, they probably have bombs on my door. But I think that stock should be in manufacturing, in businesses that's going to hire people, that's going to expand and hire more people, and do all the things that's necessary to improve the lives of people.
Well, I agree with you. Now, let me tell you where I think capitalists and democratic socialists can come together, and I think there is a place for them to come together. And it is as follows. First of all, I agree with you that I don't have a problem with Boeing and Boeing having stocks and putting it out there. I think what we should do, Bianchi, is as follows. I think we should divide the different industry groups, industry categories, and consider which ones we are going to leave in the commons and which one we'll leave to free enterprise. And if a part of free enterprise want to design themselves as capitalism, so be it. I think capitalism, as I define it, is completely and entirely evil. I honestly, to the core of my heart, I think it is evil because it has no morals whatsoever. I think free enterprise, something that we together go ahead and say, okay, Bianchi can have his construction company and make the money that he has, but as soon as Bianchi starts to hoard money, we will use the We the People section to recover some of that money and redistribute it, just because of the way math works. Okay? But capitalism as a whole does not allow for that. Go ahead, Bianchi.
Well, I'm against the redistributing money. I think that if a company is profitable, if they go out there and they're providing a service, it just happens that way. No one's stopping anyone else from getting involved. Things just happen that way.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, and that's the reason I said it's immoral. It's a system by design that is immoral. It's a system that by design will make other people poor as it makes a few rich. That is the design of it. I mean, if you look at how the math works, if you draw the curve, that is how the math works. I'm going to have Richard Wolff. He's a great economist out there who understands economists. He's going to be on April 4th. So I hope you really listen to that show. Bianchi, let me get to another caller. I'm going to keep your mic open. Let me get to another caller, and then we'll be right back, sir. Okay, come on in. I think this is my friend from Singapore, right? Mike? Skype caller, you're on. Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
I was mute before. Sorry. Yes, my friend, Mr. Egberto.
Yes, sir.
You know, the problem is this Ethiopian airline that was crashed.
Yes.
It's very suspicious because all the people who were there killed is 157 people that supported the climate change, scientists, and many top officials of the climate change from Kenya to Nigeria.
I didn't
so
realize
this
that,
is very.
I didn't realize that, but
yes.
I didn't realize that. But let me just say one thing before we go into those kind of theories. The behavior based on the tracking of the plane and based on what the pilot said, it seems to have had the similar behavior like another crash. I don't remember the other airline. I don't remember the name of the other airline that had it. My gut feeling tells me that there is a technical software issue in that airplane. I mean, I understand a lot of the theories that are going to come out now, but what I want to do, my brother, is not. I mean, you may be right, but I don't know that you are. I more believe it is a technical problem, but what I like to do is give people real information, and so far it looks like a technical problem. But go ahead, Mike.
Yes. Maybe you're right too, as well. But all the 737, which B class, which is pretty much brand new airplanes, but all of them are grounded around the globe right now, and they're rethinking about it and to say first they have to get a problem solved to see how and why it's dropped after 16 minutes after takeoff. And so that's one thing. And then we go back to, Medicare for all.
I got 1 minute, 1 minute, so go ahead and make your point, my dear brother.
Medicare for all must be the theme of the 2020 election, and anybody who can give it to us, we are going to vote for that. And please don't be stupid to vote for Trump again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Mike. I always like to hear your point of view, and we'll talk tomorrow if you're or tomorrow or Wednesday if you're on. And Bianchi, give me a closing statement. I gotta go.
Well, I myself like to leave liberty in the hands of people. You made mention about there's nothing stopping. You made mention about the rules and regulations that people don't understand. Well, then that brings up the other socialist problem, and that's the traditional educational system in this country.
All right, we don't have time to get into that.
I think parents should have a choice.
All right, I don't have time.
Well, I don't. I'm just making mention.
All right, great.
The educational system in this country, and there's nothing preventing people to improve on their skills. Libraries, other sources where they can become abreast of what's going on.
Bianchi, thank you so kindly for calling in. I always like to listen to your point of view. Likewise, Mike, thank you so kindly for calling in. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Let me close out with my last ask, and then we'll be done. I hope you enjoyed the program, listening to Stephanie Thompson talk about her ordeal with Medicare. I mean, this is very serious, and I think in the long run, if we start telling people stories, if you start telling your stories, if you have a story to tell, remember the Politics Done Right 10-point plan, folks. I want to hear from regular average American citizens out there, regular folks with issues. I want to bring you on just for you to tell your story. I think it is important for all of us to have a platform to tell our stories. So just like I brought on Stephanie, I brought on other folks, I don't only bring on professors, I don't only bring on politicians, I want to bring you on to tell your story. And look, you're going to have several thousand people and thousands and over as we do that. people will hear your story, and you will be part of that which is, or whom's making the change. Because it's not going to happen on mainstream media. It's not going to happen on regular TV. We are the ones who have to make the change. What I ask of you, however, is keep platforms like us active and funded. Please go to patreon.com/politics done right. That is P as in person, ATREON.com/politics done right. And please support us. There are several levels of support, or you can simply go to politicsdoneright.com and contribute to the show if you don't want to subscribe to the show. But I mean, subscriptions are great, contributions are great. For those of you who subscribe, remember what you get. You get access to all our books. And right now we have, of course, the one that I'm writing, How to Make America Utopia. That's the one on the screen right now. I'm on my 3rd chapter right now. And as I release chapters, it goes online and you can read it. And when it's done, the whole book is yours. The book that I have completed that I tell you is what I call it's an important requirement. If you really want to understand how our economy and the whole thing works in a everyday language that you can understand, that will make you go to parties and say, nah, that's not how things really work, or be able to talk in a kind way, but talk about how things really work. There is, as I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. That is online as well. You can read it online as a subscriber. And of course, you can go to Amazon and purchase it. And then the book that I released last night, actually, is Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. And that like I was telling Bianchi earlier, I had gotten up to 250 pounds. Well, by the time I normalized to 235, it went down to 185 by following this procedure. I had a blood pressure of 240 over 140 for a period of time. They had to call the paramedics when I was at the station. I'm telling you, that was a scare of my life. There is no way I'm going back, and this is what I did. I just wrote a book and said, hey, this is what I do, and I know a lot of other people can benefit from exactly the things that I do, and it's pretty cool. So all of that is online if you subscribe to her stuff. Of course, you can go ahead and just get the book. All of these books are also out there at Amazon as well. So folks, thank you so kindly. Thank you so kindly for spending some time with me. We do this 5 days a week. I have a great news before I go. I'm going a little late. I have great news. I have economist and Professor Richard Wolff, who is going to be on to discuss his new book. But more importantly, we're going to talk real economics, capitalism, democratic socialism, Marxism, all that kind of stuff we're going to be talking about. I think I'm going to hold on to him for the entire hour, because I don't know if you ever listened to some of his shows on Pacifica Network or on KPFT or KPFA or any one of these other things. This guy really understands how things work. He's the one who wrote the book that actually a symposium that was called Capitalism Hits the Fan. Check that out when you get a chance. But anyhow, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.